So our first demonstration here inside the truck, we have a Westinghouse DS switchgear lineup. The original Westinghouse breaker is down here at the bottom. It is electrically operable here from within the truck. This is the original breaker. It's got an upgraded trip unit on it for communication and arc flash safety protective features. In the second section here, we have this breaker converted over to a vacuum starter for motors. Something we see very frequently where old facilities are using circuit breakers to actually start and stop motors. The vacuum bottles that are in this device are much better, much more suited to working with motors than the original softer contacts on a breaker. The vacuum bottles are hundreds of thousands of operations. Breakers are more in the thousands of operations. So that's the big value discussion for these first two items. Then at the top here, we have the retrofit from the DS to the bolt-in Magnum, brand new Magnum breaker. Value add options here are parts are really easy to get for the Magnum breaker right now. We have a lot of communication options in the trip unit, and also from a customer perspective, you can rack this breaker in and out of the cell with having the door closed. Okay, as you noticed before, if you want to rack out that DS breaker, you gotta have to have this door wide open. Everything here is held behind the cover, and this is obviously a NEMA 1 cover with a lot of venting on it. You can get this in different configurations as well. Both of these solutions, the motor starter and the Magnum, are bolt-in kits that you can order from Engineering Service. Everything has been pre-designed. We know exactly what's going to fit inside this particular type of switchgear. If we're looking at more of a custom design switchgear lineup, we take a look at what's behind me here. This is our ITE Siemens solution. So this was a custom retrofill solution with the original Siemens K-frame breaker is here in the second cell, and we'll swing around and show you the front here in a second. And up here in this first cell, we have the brand new Magnum breaker. You can see all of the custom bus work that has gone into the design, and that is all done by the Engineering Service engineering team and then installed in the field. One of the other things that we do with these projects is this cell, this original ITE breaker, is rated at 30,000 amps. This brand new Magnum breaker is rated at 65,000 amps. This custom bus work behind here, we actually do the engineering to bring the entire switchgear lineup up to 65,000 amp rating. Just something to note from a selling perspective, it's called a bus bracing study, and it would be a separate line item than just the breaker and the retrofill kit itself. Here's a picture of here's the front of the gear. You can see the original ITE breaker, and then zoom out a little bit to the Eaton breaker. All of the breakers, by the way, are rackable, so you can demonstrate how they move through different positions with a 3/8" drive speed wrench that is included with the truck. So you can allow customers to move these in and out of here so they get the feel of good and bad, and allow them to kind of interact with the equipment if you like. Right here we have our only medium voltage equipment in the truck, and it is a amp guard, a retrofilled amp guard starter. We have taken all of the internals and gone with the newer style isolation switch, which has very few moving parts as compared to the original or some of the older amp guard styles where the fuses are actually moving. So from a maintenance perspective, these are much more reliable and robust because of the lack of mass with the moving pieces. And then probably the most important feature of this is that all of your controls for the device as well as your protection are on the front panel in its own separate compartment. Whereas the older style amp guards, you actually have a slide out drawer and you have to de-energize your motor, open your isolation switch. This door can be opened with the isolation switch closed with the motor on, and you can do all your troubleshooting with the motor actually on and verify that the system is either operating with your PLC, with your SCADA, building automation, whatever you need to do on a 120 volt or 24 volt DC, you have access to without being exposed to the 5 or 15 kV high voltage. And then from a 480 volt MCC perspective, we have a number of different replacement bucket solutions shown here. One thing that we find is a common discussion point, this is the FlashGuard MCC bucket, and it is shown here alongside an Advantage bucket. That can't be done in the real world. Just so don't try to sell this with this. You can't retrofit the flash guard into the older style Advantage MCCs. Where this is simply for demonstration purposes to allow people to rack these MCC buckets in and out, and show the difference between them, and then show that we have the replacement capabilities for parts and pieces that go into these MCCs. At the top here, we show an MCC bucket for, this is a bolt-in replacement for another manufacturer. You see the difference in the type of operating handle that's not typical to Cutler Hammer or Eaton or Westinghouse, but the internals are 100% Eaton. So these are buckets that you can order that will go into another manufacturer's MCC, but all of the internals are Eaton.